All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild. It's a study that found a totally unlikely hero in the fight against plastic pollution. We're talking about a creature you've probably seen, but one that's hiding a secret that could help us tackle one of our biggest environmental headaches. But first, to really get why this solution is so exciting, we have to wrap our heads around the massive scale of the problem. We are, without a doubt, living in a world of plastic, and the numbers, they're just staggering. Just look at this number, 322 million tons. That's how much plastic we produce globally in a single year, and that was back in 2015. It's an amount that's almost impossible to picture, and it's created this enormous challenge for waste and pollution.
So yeah, plastic is in our oceans, our landfills, pretty much everywhere. It's built to last, which is the whole problem. But what if nature, all this time, already had an answer to this mess we've made?
And that brings us to the star of our story, our protagonist in this scientific drama, the common mealworm. And it brings us to the one big question that really got this whole research project started. So, scientists had already made a pretty cool discovery. They knew this little insect, which is actually the larva of a beetle, could eat and actually biodegrade polystyrene. You probably know it as styrofoam. That was a huge deal, but it turned out to be just the beginning. And here's the crucial question. Researchers really wanted to know, okay, but what about polyethylene? You know, PE. That's the stuff in our plastic bags, our water bottles, our food containers. It's way more common than polystyrene, and its chemical structure is super stable, which makes it incredibly difficult to break down. So, the team decided to put the mealworms to the ultimate test. They set up an experiment where these little guys would be fed a diet of nothing but plastic. And this is the most basic question, right? First things first. Before you can even wonder if they're breaking down the plastic, you have to know if they can even survive on it. I mean, is an all-plastic diet basically a death sentence? Well, the answer this chart gives us is honestly kind of shocking. That top blue line, that's the mealworms eating only polyethylene. After more than a month, their survival rate was 98.3%. Now look at the black line. That's the control group eating a normal, healthy diet. The lines are nearly identical.
This is just remarkable. The plastic diet was pretty much harmless. These mealworms weren't just hanging on, they were basically thriving, which proved they could handle this totally unnatural food source with no real problem.
Okay, so they can eat it. But the next, and let's be honest, the most important piece of this puzzle is figuring out what is actually happening to the plastic inside the mealworm. Let's look at the hard science. This is the key distinction. Are they just creating microplastics by chewing, which, doesn't really solve the problem at all, or are they actually kicking off a real chemical breakdown, fundamentally changing the plastic itself? To answer that, we gotta talk about something called depolymerization. See, plastics are polymers, just really long chains of molecules all linked together. Depolymerization is simply the process of breaking that chain apart into smaller bits. That pearl necklace analogy is perfect. The mealworm isn't just snapping the necklace in half, it's breaking it all the way down into individual pearls. So how do you prove this is happening? You measure the size of those molecule chains. And this right here, this is the smoking gun. Scientists used a special technique to measure the molecular weight of the plastic before the mealworms ate it, and then they measured the residue from their waste. And the results were crystal clear. The average molecular weight of the plastic dropped from around 27,500 all the way down to about 16,500. That's a 40% reduction. This is concrete proof that those long polymer chains were being chemically snipped apart inside the mealworm's gut.
But they didn't stop there. They also used a technique that's kind of like a chemical fingerprint reader. On the left, you see the fingerprint for clean plastic. But on the right, for the plastic that went through the worm, you can see these new little peaks show up. Those peaks are a dead giveaway that oxygen atoms have been added to the plastic structure, a clear sign of chemical change and a key first step in biodegradation.
So the evidence is clear. The mealworm is a plastic degrading machine. But how? What's the secret? Well, the answer isn't really in the worm itself, but deep inside its gut.
So here's the really crucial part. The mealworm is basically the host, it's the bioreactor. But the real work, all the heavy lifting, is being done by trillions of bacteria that make up its gut microbiome. The plastic goes in, and this microscopic cleanup crew gets to work.
By analyzing the gut DNA, the researchers actually identified specific bacteria that seemed to be doing the job. Two of them, Citrobacter and Kosakonia, were linked to both types of plastic, and another one, Brevibacterium was especially tied to the polyethylene and is already known for breaking down similar compounds. These guys are our prime suspects.
Understanding this microscopic process, well, it opens up a whole new path forward. This isn't just a quirky fact about an insect. It has huge implications for how we might solve our plastic problem on a global scale. And here's the biggest takeaway. The fact that the same gut microbiome could handle two chemically different plastics means the breakdown process is versatile. The gut bacteria just seem to adapt to whatever you feed them, creating this incredible blueprint for taking apart plastics.
And this is where it gets really practical. They tested the mealworms on a mix of both plastics, and the worms broke down both at the same time. This is huge, because in the real world, plastic waste is a jumbled mess, and that's a massive headache for recycling.
I mean, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. This adaptability is the key. The system isn't a one-trick pony. It's dynamic, and it can learn.
And that leaves us with this final, amazing question. Look, we're not going to deploy billions of mealworms to eat our landfills, but by studying these bacteria, could we isolate their enzymes? Could we scale up this natural process in big industrial bioreactors? Could the secrets hidden away in a tiny insect's gut actually give us the tools we need to clean up an entire planet? The research sure seems to suggest the answer might just be yes.